Welcome to the U World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us to the U World Order podcast. Today, I'm super excited, being my first podcast of the U World Order, and I have the distinct blessing to be speaking with Laurie Schroeder, RN and personal life coach. So, Laurie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And what I'd like to do is just have you kind of introduce yourself, tell us about what you're doing, and where you are and what you're offering, just everything about you. This is the You Show. So nice to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kasey. I appreciate this. My name is Laurie. I'm a nurse turned life coach. So I graduated nursing in 1987 and joined the Navy. So that's part of my military veteran story. But kind of quickly got out, got married, and just for the next 30 years was working in hospitals. And I ended up finding I got a job in the operating room. So the last 25 years I was working in surgery. And then, like a lot of nurses, just kind of worked my way, quote, up, from to charge nurse and then to supervisor. And then I found myself in one of these nurse management positions. I was so excited to get that position. I wasn't looking for it, which was interesting. My manager kind of suddenly left and this position was opened, and I was really happy in my supervisor role, but so many of the doctors and the anesthesiologists and my nursing director just really supported me, and they were like, take this job. This will be good. So, I shouldn't say I lasted for about a year. I was in that job, and I was new to it, although I certainly wasn't new to nursing because I had been a nurse for so long. Right. But I gave myself the story that I just burned out, that it was too hard, that I just wasn't good at it. But I had this judgment that like not everybody liked me. I didn't know what I was doing. I was afraid to ask questions, all those things. Mm-hmm. And after a year, I just thought, you know what, this is not for me. And I bailed out, went back to staff nursing at a different hospital. And then COVID hit, and my husband and I moved down to Tennessee. And that's kind of when I retired. But I got into life coaching. I kind of like the way I got into life coaching. I was over drinking. Probably a little bit before that management job. And then that management job just gave me such an excuse. Like I would find myself getting in the car being like, oh, I hate this job. And then just drinking. And I decided I wanted to quit, and I wasn't quitting, and hired myself a life coach. And that's kind of how I got into life coaching. So once I left, I was in Minnesota with all my, the OR and the nurse management job. And once my husband decided we were going to move to Tennessee and I was leaving that location, I decided that I would just, go to get certified as a life coach. And I wasn't really going to do much with it, but it just was kind of interesting. So I got certified as a life coach, and it's 2021. And just as I was talking to people about my journey, old friends, things like that, they would just ask like, gosh, could you coach me? And so I started a one-on-one coaching practice, which brings me to, I'm in a place of pivot right now because I'm involved with an organization called Positive Intelligence out of Stanford. And they have a passion for bringing this program that I went through into the healthcare arena.
Right.
And so I was like, gosh, I could do that. So anyways, I'm in a transition right now doing from one-on-one into positioning myself into corporate and basically introducing this concept of mental fitness, which is what positive intelligence, kind of how they market their positive emotions, negative emotions. We have like mental fitness. And so it's all about learning like those voices in our head, giving language to them, which is funny. In healthcare, there's always a language in healthcare. My husband calls it med speak. And this also has a language. So this is kind of like a positive intelligence language where the founder, Shahrzad, he's a researcher. He has pretty much, through research and factor analysis, put in a concept of we have basically 5 like sage aspects of our brain and 10 saboteur aspects. And these are just the voices in our head. So basically, if the saboteur is affecting you because you're having a negative emotion about something, which would be like, let's say your mother-in-law says something, it just tweaks you out and you start acting negatively about it. And then these sage aspects is operating on a more positive level. So the mental fitness brings us from negative into positive. So anyways, I went through Shahrzad's program as a coach and just loved what he brought. And then when he was saying he wanted to bring this to healthcare, I'm like, oh my gosh, sign me up. So I'm
Seems like
basically
a perfect segue between your experience that you've had for so many years in the medical field, being, a registered nurse, having the experience of a positive result from life coaching and bringing them together. I love it. I absolutely love it, especially in a high stress, I imagine, right? With hospital leaders, that's probably a very high stress niche. And you never really think.
It's very high stress. And it, COVID happened and it's very high stress with that, but it was high stress before that. Like COVID really kind of brought some things out, but, people are overwhelmed by self-doubt. That's how I felt. I was just like, had such doubt that I couldn't do this job. And that's just a sign that your mental fitness needs a boost. I think another big thing is just that bouncing back from hardship. This has really helped me just like recover so much quicker from a negative situation into positive. It's not that it doesn't diminish the things that happen to us at all. This mindset, this way of thinking, it just helps enhance to quickly get into a more positive. So and it addresses that lack of focus that so many leaders have. I remember thinking I was so scattered. There'd be all these initiatives coming down from the system, and it's just like, oh my gosh, where do I start? But through these tools, it really helps kind of narrow stuff down.
And I think what's really telling, what's really grabbing me with what you're doing, and I love that statement, mental fitness. I love that because we tend to like focus on our bodies, and we think that like exercise and fitness in the sense is, going and lifting weights and, going for a run or a jog or, whatever have you. But we're forgetting that mental exercise that we have to do in many different situations, especially what we're doing in business and the balance of life and family and everything like that, especially when you're in a high stress job and career. So I absolutely love this mental fitness because it reminds us that, all right, we're human, right? Yeah. And we're all going to be going through these emotions. And if we're equipped and we're working on what we need to work on, it's not going to eliminate those things.
Nothing's going to change. Uh-oh.
It's how we react. Exactly. It's how we react to them. It's if you want to just go over some things that you work on with your one-on-ones to help energize, I guess, exercise the mind. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And pulling that mental fitness piece out, it is like a workout because, it's almost like if you don't we know this about our lives. If we don't do anything to change or to, don't go to the gym, like you're not going to build those muscles up. So there's techniques within this program that help develop the muscles. And that's kind of what I'm bringing to the healthcare leaders. So just something to help support and sustain these habits, new ways of self-discovery. There's kind of something for everyone, I think, within this program. And the bottom line is just helping improve performance, strengthen relationships. This was a little surprise bonus that I got doing this work, and just general well-being, which to me translates to like happiness. So
100%, especially when you think about just the sheer amount of time that we spend on our careers and we spend on our job and the hours that we put in. And it's a majority of our time, not everyone can be independent wealthy where they don't have to worry about, being in a stressful situation. And then oftentimes I've found that when you have these feelings of self-doubt, it kind of just builds, right? And then you start to, I don't know if I can do that. And you start really doubting yourself and how your ability is to perform a job. And that, I believe, leads into like other parts of your life, and your self-confidence goes down, right? But if you're opposite and you're working on this, like what you're saying, you kind of take it on and use those as tools to catapult you forward instead of like dwelling on them. That's exactly sort of along the lines, right? Awesome.
Yes, exactly. It helps you catapult, just gives another reframing of what's going on in your brain. Because the work that Shahrzad has done is based a lot on research and functional MRIs and things like that. Stuff that nurses and, doctors and things, if you like love brain science, it's an interesting program. But it's just knowing that like positive change can't be sustained without like exposing kind of like what the negative things are and how to build to the positive. So it really, there's concepts and work and just identifying what these saboteurs are. And basically it's the voices in our head, like that we hear.
Yes,
and he gives little names to them. So just kind of helps remember. But so that's what I'm doing now. And the challenge for me has just been that transition from one-on-one coaching into the corporate world. So I'm doing some work with, getting my LinkedIn together, because before I never even gave any mind to that. So
right.
Yeah. So we're just doing a little switch out there.
And I think it's a good, I think that especially in the corporate world, I spent a lot of time in the corporate world. I'd much rather be where I am now because I feel like I make more of a difference personally. But I remember trainings, right? And it was a lot of it was tech-based, and we never really challenged with any other struggle other than I can't open this spreadsheet or how to make a formula in here, right? So like, it's so great to know that we have such an awareness now that we can tap into these things that affect. It isn't a matter anymore of someone not being able, I'm just using this as an example, of course. Like, it's not just about someone not being able to open a spreadsheet anymore. If something is kind of affecting someone's work, that it's the realization that it might be something else other than maybe being technologically challenged or something like that.
Right.
And I think this is such a great thing that helps a lot of people that maybe were either too afraid to admit that they were struggling mentally with A, B, or C, stress, anxiety, or whatever, or self-doubt, like you had mentioned. And you kind of internalize that, right? We never really spoke about that stuff. And it just, when you really think,
this really gives a language to those fears that come up. And there's all like, some people avoid taking things on. That's me, like to avoid doing things. Like I know it's expected of me, but sometimes I just don't want to do it. It's understanding that. And then some people just have to do one achievement after another. Other people feel like they're always a victim and that nothing goes right for them. So this program gives that language on a corporate level. And it's kind of fun to do a seminar on saboteurs because people take an assessment and you get to find out what your top saboteurs are. And it really helps you understand how you approach a problem, and then maybe how your coworker is so different than you and approaches it in a different way. So
absolutely. It probably opens a lot of eyes,
yeah.
right? And it becomes a topic to talk about that doesn't bring, it's a little strong of a word, but shame, because I feel like
what I was going to say, shame.
Yeah, it's such a strong word, but it's true, right? Like
So
we tend to, when we feel like we're lacking in some way, shape, or form, it's somehow such a negative. So we don't want to admit it.
Right.
And
Brene Brown has done such good work in the corporate arena around vulnerability and shame. So it's just kind of, I feel like, paved the way for this extra layer of work to be done, or to bring it forward to corporate. So a lot of this work does mention those types of things, but you are absolutely right with that. And I know I felt that as a new nurse manager, of just like shame and like, oh, I'm just not good enough. I didn't want to speak up at a meeting, and those types of things, to give it language and validity, can really help propel just your person, just like to fulfill your true potential, whatever that is.
Exactly. And like I had mentioned before, it seems like it's such a good way to exercise the mind in other aspects of your life. Obviously career, because that's a majority of most of our lives, but knowing that creates, what you're offering is creating habits.
Yes.
So it can affect you with relationships and other aspects of your life. Is actually, it's you're really getting down to the core of really helping people. And I think on the corporate level, which is so interesting to me, because everybody's focused on the one-on-one right now, right? But this is like, listen, do you want to increase work? Do you want to increase positivity in your entire company? You're not just tackling one person at a time, because everyone's struggling with something different, right?
That's exactly it. Because it really brings out, because the performance, well-being, and relationships is kind of like his three pillars that we bring to the corporate. But each person individually has issues. And, and it goes into family life too. And, through coaching, it's always interesting. One-on-one coaching, you always, you come in with a goal and a situation, but so many times it gets to that baseline of like, how are your relationships at home, and then what's your relationship like to yourself? So
of course, because it all gets blended. Like you had mentioned before about the mother-in-law. That could be a situation with your children or your spouse, and it, the littlest tweak can set you off in every aspect of your life. And if you're equipped with learning how to deal with those, right? So it's like you're helping your organ. It's just another organ that you're helping. Your mind is like another piece of your body. I like to run because I want I want good cardiovascular health, and I want and things like that. So
so the techniques taught really bring in that mental fitness of getting, quicker from the negative to the positive. And there's taught some very specific, basically, exercises for mental fitness.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, because I think we focused on the physical so much. And I think up until recently, I think you can kind of agree, the topic of mental wellness was like, like not really spoken about.
The mental, like you would talk about someone's mental health. Like that word, mental health, mental wellness, like it's becoming a lot more common.
Yeah.
And I've kind of liked how Shirzad has labeled a mental fitness, because I've heard it before, but it's the kind of the cornerstone language within his with his program. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I think that the niche that you're focused on is fantastic, because I think it's forgotten about. Because of the sheer amount of time that people spend, at their jobs. So why not, if you're teaching them, a program in work, why not help them? Because they're going to be more sufficient. They're going to do a better job. They're going to be happy. Happy employees are going to give their best work.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been in healthcare for a while, and there just seems to be like this hidden expectation that everything has to be 100% effort and perfect, like especially with like physicians, the amount of pressure that they have on themselves to, always to be getting it right. And it's not to diminish that that work, but I think just bringing forward that there's a lot of negative emotion that comes from that pressure. And this is kind of another way to handle it, give it a different language and a different focus, and just to help the leaders cope.
And I love the awareness. And I love that, because you can't really make change or create change if you're not aware, if you're just not aware of it, or you're denying it even so far, right? So like, if it's presented to people, someone who wouldn't normally step forward and say, okay, I'm struggling a little bit, I'm not really sure why or how or what the reason is, this is intriguing to me, and then are given steps to kind of pinpoint that without feeling that shame, without feeling like, okay, and realizing that there's a lot of people just like me and you, whether it's different circumstances, everybody struggles with that. I struggle with it every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the direction I'm going, and
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I know you're at that pivot stage. I get that. How can people get in touch with you right now? I know that, you're in transition right now, but is there a way people can get in touch with you right now if they have any additional questions, anything like that? Feel free to share what you're, ready to share, of course.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't have a website. I'm not going to do a website. But I would say LinkedIn. So it's Laurie Schroeder, and then you could type in Laurie Schroeder RN and life coach and message me through there. So
that's great. I absolutely love it. I love how there's so many resources out there now that are able to help people from all different angles to be the best versions of themselves. And when it's like that kind of cliche saying, like when you take care of yourself, everything else
absolutely
follows suit, right?
Yes. Yeah. And this gives the healthcare leaders in particular the tools. So I'm talking about the nurse managers, the directors, the C-suite, the ones that are helping leading the caregivers, like the nurses and those. So I just know that when I was a nurse manager, like this really could have, this program actually, I believe, could have helped me just stay in that role and not have bailed out so quickly to have these tools. So and
it's miraculous how that kind of went full circle for you, that like you lived that and went through those steps, and now we're like, this helped me, now I want to help others.
Yes.
And knowing that this probably could have helped you at that point. Who knows? I mean, you might have still been in that role,
That's right. I was very well supported in that role. I came from a wonderful organization. But yeah. So anyways.
No, that's great. And I love it. I love everything about it. I think that when you think about healthcare professionals, just me being not a healthcare professional, right? They're invincible to me. I mean, this is a doctor, these are nurses, these are healthcare professionals, right? So like, you don't even think that possibly they need to work on anything, or like, you know what I mean? In a way, there's like this just kind of aura of, so it almost seems like it was like a forgotten group of people.
That's what I think.
So those are the people you want, the healthiest. If they're taking care of you, I want the healthiest person, mentally and physically.
There's actually Shirzad, the researcher that brought this forward. He's out of Stanford University, but he's had several physician groups go through this program. It's basically a 7-week program, but so it's quite amazing.
That's miraculous. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, you shared your LinkedIn right now. I'm keen on keeping, track of you and how you grow. And thank you so much for being my first podcast for today. I'm so excited.
Kasey, thank you.
So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, they can check you out. Laurie Schroeder, RN, make sure you put that RN. That's how I found you as well. You came right on top. So that's great with all your background and information. So if anyone wants to get in contact, they can do it that way for now. I'm looking forward to seeing you strive forward and seeing where you build this, because, you know, I truly believe in what you're doing. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it was great to have you. Thank you so much.
It was so much fun. Yeah. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Kasey.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.